Virginia already has abortion legal through all 9 months of pregnancy. Many people don't realize that because that's not what the rhetoric from the other side will say. But it actually is the case. We have very expansive laws. Abortion is widely available throughout the state. There's 25 abortion facilities operating in Virginia. We have an extremely easy access situation because you can have chemical abortions mailed to you without a doctor's visit. Heaven only knows what kind of dangers that's provoking for particularly a young woman who has no idea of her medical history. But all in all, we have a state where we are already one of the most expansive place in the South. The amendment only makes it impossible for us to make sure that the women who approach an abortion situation do so with safety.
So welcome, Olivia Turner. It is quite a privilege to have you on our Sip of Tea podcast, and I'll just give you a quick background as to how we ended up talking. I'm a GOP chair in my alternate life. I got an email. It came from the name Jennifer Hubert, I think, or Hubert. But it was from you, really. It was your prose, and it's like you identified yourself, and then you went into what got my attention, and I'll just summarize it as the appalling lack of two things: one, to be opportune, and to actually demonstrate leadership. That's what I saw. I mean, I wasn't at the state central committee meeting where the motion was put forward and got tangled into a split of different minds about, well, we really don't need to take a stand on that. I said, you don't? Well, let's put it off to the resolutions committee. Guys, you're missing the train here. They're meeting this Saturday in Fredericksburg to actually follow up. And they're meeting sooner than they wanted to because of visceral reactions from not just people like me just reading the email and hearing the accounts of the meeting, but from groups like yours. So let me have you tell us about yourself and about your group and what ticked you off about this.
Well, first I'm going to ask you a question because
Okay.
I don't know what you've shared with your listeners already at different times, buddy.
Right.
Does everybody on the have they heard the situation and the issue that was in consultation at the SCC?
They have. They have. This is the kind of topic that will race like wildfire, and it doesn't really get embellished. It gets tightened and improved and gets to the point through the wildfires for the wildfire spread of it. Right.
So we all think. So listening to you right now, we assume that everybody who's tuning in is going to know that the issue that was presented to the SCC was whether or not the state central committee should advise taking a position on 3 amendments that are going to be on the ballot this fall.
Yeah.
I am the president of the Virginia Society of Human Life, as we discussed, and as the letter, which, by the way, Jennifer is our office manager. So when she has to send it out to her system. So you heard from Jennifer, but it was my concerns.
Yeah.
So I am the president of the state's and actually the country's oldest pro-life organization, founded in 1967. So we also are the only pro-life organization in the state that has a political action committee. So I track with our office holders and various we're nonpartisan, we're not Republican or Democrat, but we track with the parties to go, what's going on? I mean, obviously, in recent years, the only people that have received the Virginia Society of Human Life endorsement have been Republicans, because sadly, there are no pro-life Democrats running for office at this moment in history. So, my concern is to make sure that we're all singing the same tune. And right now, dealing with these amendments, there has to be a unified voice. And unfortunately, I was made aware of the final decision, which was to make no decision last 2 weeks ago at the Central Committee. And it was confusing, quite honestly, knowing that there are many members of actually a Virginia Society of Human Life that actually are members of the SCC, including our own vice president. So I'm very familiar with some of the workings, and I know some of the people, and it shocked me. Then I heard more of the story, and that's kind of where we are now, is discussing. I do believe that the letters that VSHL sent, that on my behalf, that we sent to all of you on the Central Committee and the unit chairs, the GOP unit chairs, were critically important to help the members understand that there is a plan to a successful no vote, at the very least, on the abortion limit. I can't speak to the other two amendments because our organization does not take positions on things like who gets married to who or what do we do with prisoners. We do take a position on all the life issues from pre-birth to natural death. So that became an issue of critical importance to me. So that's kind of how we got to where we are right now. And that's why you all heard from me with such urgency in the first 12 hours after your meeting, because it was too important an issue to not draw your attention, to all of the members' attention. And I have to say, I've been hearing extremely positive responses from GOP unit chairs, from some members of the State Central Committee, who were all very pleased that they knew we actually were concerned and have answers to offer. I think the issue scares a lot of people. It certainly scares many politicians and people involved in politics, but it's an issue we can win if we do this right.
Yeah, so it's the doing it right thing is a problem for me because so the very fact that someone would see the necessity to in a Republican governing body, ha, ha, whether to see the necessity or have the gall to go, we need to stand up and proclaim, what we're here to already be about to begin with. The fact that that came forward, I haven't heard anybody talk about that. It's like if you work at an ice cream company, we need to, promote ice cream, well, we do that already. Why would you pass a resolution about promoting ice cream? That sounds like more like an advertising campaign. Well, the Republicans, they have their creed, right? The sacredness of human life is not in it because it's on a different level, I guess. And it was drafted and crafted at a different time. But it's like, the fact that it was even someone saw it as necessary was, I think, is telling. The fact that they shied away from it and pretended like, well, we need to take a stand on that.
Right.
I think the question was asked in the audience or in discussion. It's like, well, what do you think you're here for? I think the answer in general was we're here to get Republicans elected. And then the follow up was, you think this is going to help you do that by pushing it to a resolutions committee and everybody's listening and watching? Hello.
Yeah, the
So a lot,
key thing you
yeah.
you hit the nail on the head. I think there's a misunderstanding about where the base actually is on some of these issues and actually where the middle ground is. Because frankly, while people think that maybe abortion should be legal under very limited circumstances for very urgent reasons, really, in reality, the numbers haven't changed much, even after Dobbs. When pressed, 60% of people would side with 20% of people who oppose all abortions except for the life of the mother. And that would make the majority. That makes 80%. So you just have to learn how to communicate to that 60% that thinks maybe there are other circumstances we need to think about this. And that's fine. We can have that conversation. That's not what the amendment is about. The amendment
Right.
removes all rational laws in the Commonwealth. It opens the door to the removal of our parental consent law. And so what was nerve wracking, I think, for many people that spoke to me afterwards, and to myself, I have to admit, was that there seemed to be kind of a backing away, particularly since in the same week, you saw GOP units like the Fairfax unit decide 99-1 to advise the voters to take a no position. On the sample ballots that units prepare for voters to advise them to say no, particularly to the abortion amendment. And I
So you
think,
said 99-1.
yeah, in Fairfax County, in the land
So
of the blue.
my question is, what the hell's wrong with that one? But that's just me.
I don't know all the details of how that vote went down, but I do say this: if you've got Fairfax County, that
Yeah.
would be the county probably most likely to be somewhat cautious because they are the land of the blue up there. That they would be kind of nervous about taking that strong stand. Except that the reality is we also have to comprehend, well, who is the GOP right now? And the GOP, in
Okay.
large part, is the voice of reason on some of these critical social issues.
It should
And
be. It's
yeah,
uniquely positioned for that. But the question of who is the GOP right now? In Virginia, I think that's in flux. And it's too bad. It's the worst time for it to be the case. And
all
this
I
is the
can
worst
say
symptom,
is, all I
you
can
know.
say is, Betty, I was there at the GA. I'm the primary lobbyist for VSHL. We have a 2 lobbyist team, and I've been there for decades, and I know our members very, very well, very closely. And I applaud every single on the abortion amendment, not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but for 3 years. The Republican membership of the General Assembly voted unanimously to stop this thing. The first year it
Right.
passed out of the Senate when McClellan was still in the Senate, and the House had to stop it. The House did stop it. They couldn't stop it in the Senate, but they did stop it in the House. And the same thing then for 2 years, in 2025 and 2026, every single Republican member stood up clearly, went to the wall on this issue, and voted no on this amendment. So I believe strongly that the reasoning behind why I want to see us help our units do the right thing and help the State Central Committee make the right decision here is that I think our members deserve the support of the
Okay.
party at this moment in history.
So this is the funny thing, and I shouldn't dwell on this because there's more interesting things to talk about, but they're connected to the thing you just mentioned, the support.
Mhm.
Um, One of the failings in the view of some, if not many, is that the functionary role of a party central, command, if you will, is to make sure the local units have the resources they need and do the job. So our new chairman, very new, not new to the SEC, however, more than once after the referendum vote was fixed by I guess one single Democrat in the state Supreme Court. Um, Never mind about the mail ballot dumping that went on in Arlington and Fairfax. He gave credit to the grassroots. If it weren't for you guys, this wouldn't have gotten to where it went. And it's so
Mhm.
okay, but you're the RPV. Hello. And so we're seeing symptomatic continuation of that. And so it's like, ugh, oh, it's the worst time of it. However, all right, let's get to something positive. We have organizations like yours who are basically, you would do this anyway, but this is essentially filling a vacuum that should not exist. The
Mhm.
opportunities for it it's necessary that you do what you're doing, and
Well, we
that we're
tried.
going to benefit from what you're doing
We're
because
giving you
I was going to say, I think you have a unique resource to bring, and you have focused, razor precision intention in what you're doing, and it's in tune with where we are, and what we're thinking as conservatives. So that's what I want to know more about while I have you as a guest. And boy, when Saturday comes and goes, I hope we have a better view of the whole landscape of this. But tell us some
listen,
more
you're
about
gonna
what your
have to
organization has been doing. You know,
Well, we're gonna have to keep talking and talking
yeah.
because this is really just the beginning of this process. And one of the things that I also was aware of when I wrote that letter to all of you is that most of you are doing your thing. You're doing what you're supposed to do with your units and other things that have to be done in the party. You may have no idea about what organizations like VSHL have been involved
Well, that's
in.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and
You're
that's kind
right.
of where
You're
we are right
exactly
now.
right. Yeah.
So what you're absolutely right. We've known this was coming down the highway for quite some time. We watched 8 other states contend with these amendments, and only 3 thus far have been able to stop them. Florida, South Dakota, and Nebraska. 8 other states were unable to. So there's actually been 11 states that have been pushed in this corner, and we're going to do our best to be number 4 of the states that stop this thing. But in the process, we've developed handouts. We've got a website. We've actually pulled a coalition together. 2.5 years ago, I knew, based on what had happened in other states, that it was critical that everybody that had a part to play in this, that was concerned, of the social groups, the groups that are involved in some of the civic, social, community activity, we all kind of work together, but we kind of do our own thing. It was critical on this front that we all be united, and I'm very fortunate that I have been able to form some very good relationships with everybody from CWA, Good Family Foundation friends, to our friends at the Catholic Church in the state, to Lutherans for Life, to Methodists for Life, to, and then There Were None, which is the former abortionist group. There are the Douglas Leadership Institute. We have contacts in those organizations. All of these various and sundry organizations are now a part of it. I think we've got about 27 different organizations. The Virginia Independent Baptists, everybody is in the room. The Democrats for Life are in the room with us. We are
Okay.
talking to each other about how do we collectively tap our own membership, what we have in our resources, and what we know about these subjects. But the critical thing that we did was last fall, we decided to, as a coalition, to hire a company to research. We now have from a company called Hearts and Minds Strategic. They did an excellent deep dive, not just into one small area of the state, but the entire state. Now, one of our other partners also did some polling data, which was very helpful as a seed information. But we've now got data that covers the entire state. We know what populations, what messages move what age groups, which
Okay.
regions of the state are most mobilized. We know what media, different age groups, different sexes, different folks pay attention to, whether it's YouTube or Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, or are they getting their news from the evening news? So this is what we're bringing to the table. Nobody has to reinvent the wheel. And I want the Republican Party members to realize, come along with us.
Sure.
Let's be
I
working
got it.
together on this. And that's
Yeah.
kind of why this conversation is so valuable to me, because I want to reach out to everybody. In fact, we're going to, you don't know this yet, but we're partnering. We've hired the Axiom consultancy team
Yeah.
that helped to defeat the amendment in Nebraska. They're our primary consulting team. And the gal who is in charge of it with us was the gal who worked, and some of the folks will know her, Kristen Davison, who worked so closely to get Governor Youngkin elected. So we've got people who understand Virginia working with us and understand the fight on this amendment. So all together, we can do this.
I was going to say, the resources are there. Together, this can be done. You already have the metrics and the research, and you're geared up with resources, and then we want to put these things together, right? So you've cited a number of already inclined organizations and coalitions, and then it's like, okay, where are the Republicans? Where are the conservatives that aren't already identified in that group? So this is intended to reach them, right?
That's my fault. I accept the blame on that one completely and totally. I kind of was focused on our friends and all the various and sundry social groups. The reality is, I think I kind of naively assumed that all the relationships that I have with so many of our excellent members in the GOP, it was just going to be a natural come. This took me, what happened at the SEC took me by surprise, because it was like, wait a minute, boys and girls, weren't we all standing together in January, fighting down to the wire on this thing? So I think I accept blame that I didn't reach out more effectively, but I confess, coming out of the session, going into the redistricting fight, I kind of thought, you guys don't even have bandwidth to talk to me right now because we're fighting a redistricting fight. So I left everybody alone. So this was, okay, I'm a believer. This is God's timing. Okay, let's do this thing. I'm just diving in.
I'm committed to killing every one of these damn amendments.
Yes.
And we did everything we could, and we raised the bar, and we made a mark with the one for the referendum that was just barely defeated. But it's like, there's 4 of these damn things. And so I actually created a music video about voting no, right? And I've got another one I'm thinking of doing. If you haven't seen it, you're in for, a self-indulgent treat. The next one is called 3 More Horses to Go. Because I see these amendments, and as an analog to the horseman of the apocalypse. There's a one-to-one correspondence with every one of them in a way that is not a stretch, but the white horse is down.
Yeah.
And the other 3 have to join it on the ground, and so I know you're representing abortion, and so that's the red horse, in this case, but the abuse of the criminal voting block, and with ignoring the impact of society and then coddling criminals, the whole thing needs to be just no, that does not belong in the Constitution. That's been historically worked out, and the other one with gay marriage, it's already a federal resolved issue. What are you doing? I'll tell you what they're doing. They're going after you in the pulpit, and they're going after you in the congregation to shut you up. And unfortunately, too many of you are actually willing to self-censor. So do you really want to empower the state with a constitutional amendment to do that? And then on the primary issue you and I are looking at, not just where the heck is a GOP? I mean, we're here. Some of us are here. The conservatives are not going to go away on this. This ungodly, demonic, ungodly, sacrifice to
You
Molech
just said
crap.
something, buddy. You just said something critical. I think, and I've been, I'm very grateful. People like, former delegate, now Judge Gilbert West, and former Speaker Gilbert, that is, and Senator Mark Obenchain and others. I've been invited many times to do Zooms or live presentations to candidates who are running for office so that they don't open mouth, insert foot. I know how dangerous this issue is. I know that it's too easy to make a mistake. I was very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to work closely with Suzanne Youngkin, when we all remember that our dear Governor Youngkin kind of made some mistakes early on because you don't
Yeah.
realize how dangerous this issue can be.
Well, so you just flagged me for something I'm aware of. You either I opened up a point that's worth looking at, or I had my foot in my mouth. Which one was it?
Well, it's one of those things where I think what you were saying, which is
Mhm.
important, is that the issue isn't going to go away. So one of the
No,
things that sometimes annoys me, even though I've been fortunate to work closely with some of our leadership to go in and try to educate, and there are many, many legislators, are my recently, he was my delegate until very recently. Nick Freitas will tell you, I sat
uh,
in his office many times saying, "Sir, I appreciate your enthusiasm. We can't go that hard. Let's do this instead. Can we go that way?"
really?
And oh yeah, the man was brilliant at figuring out, I want to get things done. Same
Right.
for other delegates. There's other delegates who I shall not name right now, but Nick's not here anymore. He's moved to Tennessee. So he will
That's
he will
right.
he will agree with it. He learned a lot because he wanted to get it done. He wanted to see things happen. And he couldn't always get things done because the system is what the system is. And the votes just weren't there. But I think one of the things that I have valued is that ability to teach. And one of the things I know is that you cannot pretend this issue isn't there. And to this day, I don't care. We won't go into anything else, but say what you will about, Governor McDonald. He did it right. Dang on. On this issue, he got it right every single time. He never ran from it. He was authentic. The key thing I can tell any legislator about this issue is you must be authentic. In this particular case, you can't. No, we're not talking state races here. We're talking our Congress people. But I know Ben Klein and the others are going to be doing this right because they're going to have to talk about the amendment because it's going to come up. And the entire party has to talk about it. And the key thing to say is this amendment hurts the women we care about. The principal argument that will move the needle for people who don't know anything else, but they think abortion might be necessary, is to remind them that this amendment takes away all all rational laws in Virginia and leaves women we care about, our daughters, our sisters, our mothers, our best friends, vulnerable to non-licensed medical people performing abortions without any oversight from the state legislators that we elect at all. Senator Diggs put it up perfectly. He said, does this amendment mean that we in the General Assembly would not be able to control who hangs a shingle on the door and says he's capable of distributing abortion drugs, but he has no medical license? There's no way to verify what he's distributing is valid or legitimate medication that does what it says it does. There's no oversight if he commits a crime and someone dies. Isn't that a pop-up shop? Are we opening the door to creating pop-up shops? It's not about women's reproductive freedom. It's about creating a new kind of industry that's going to harm women. So we have an argument that resonates deeply with people because they
So
don't
my
love women, they love
my
her.
general position that you were hearing was, while expected from somebody who's a rabid conservative, was not useful. That's your point, right? I mean,
Really?
ultimately, it's not. People who hear me say that, yeah, well, yeah, yeah, hell yeah, we agree with that, but it doesn't take us anywhere. You mentioned Nick; he liked to get things done. You just supplied a way of portraying the argument that actually has traction,
Hmm.
because it's like,
Right.
oh, thank you for bringing out that detail. That's appalling. 'Cause that you can
Yeah,
see that, the
because
rest of it you can conceive of, but
I
that
I
is
don't need to
real.
I don't need to convince somebody who sits in a Catholic church pew every Saturday morning and Sunday afternoon and Wednesday night in the choir practice. I don't need to convince them that abortion is a bad thing. What I need to do is help convince their neighbor who's a decent human being, who cares about people in their community, has daughters, has sisters, has friends, and is concerned, but what if my wife is in a dangerous situation during a pregnancy? What if I'm 65 years old. I'm not going to have any babies anymore, but what about my 28-year-old daughter? What happens if she's in a vulnerable position? And of course, nothing at this point. Our laws are very clear about this. If a woman needs immediate emergency medical care, nothing in our laws prevents that. There is no effort underfoot to change that. Nothing would change that. So we have to answer people's anxieties. Where do people live that aren't necessarily already in the base? And right now, what I want our Republican friends and my friends in the other organizations and our church groups to be listening to is, what have we learned? What makes people nervous about the amendment? Because essentially, this is the scariest thing. Virginia already has abortion legal through all 9 months of pregnancy. Many people don't realize that because that's not what the rhetoric from the other side will say. But it actually is the case. We have very expansive laws. Abortion is widely available throughout the state. There's 25 abortion facilities operating in Virginia. We have an extremely easy access situation because you can have chemical abortions mailed to you without a doctor's visit. Heaven only knows what kind of dangers that's provoking for particularly a young woman who has no idea of her medical history. But all in all, we have a state where we are already one of the most expansive place in the South. The amendment only makes it impossible for us to make sure that the women who approach an abortion situation do so with safety. That's what will move the needle. And that's
it moved my needle already, and on two fronts. One, while I value precision, I don't always have grasp of precision. That argument helped me with that a lot, and I'm sure there's more. And so, actually, I'm going to use a bit of what you said as the lead-in for this interview because we got it. Well, all of this is great, but the encapsulation of what you just offered and shared with us is like, wait a minute. Thanks for saying that. It's actionable and tractionable. Thank you for that. Olivia, it's great to meet you. We got more we can talk about. I want to make sure that the audience that sees this knows how to get in touch with you. So we'll have all that in the description and the links below. And yeah, we got a lot of critical work to do in less than 6 months.
Let's stay in touch.
Three more horses to go, but then after the show, right, today, I want to see if folks can have you speak to the units. And
let me give you a quick little update on that.
Yeah.
I would love to go to the units. I'm getting lots of requests, but a lot of them overlap. I can't bilocate. I'm not magical, but we do have Kristen and I have come up with a plan we're going to offer to all the units. We're going to offer a Zoom call. I think the date that we're looking at is next week, June 18th. We can do it again after. She's going to be out of town for a while, but we can do it again before the 4th of July. But we're going to start with an offer to all the units, a call where she and I talk about what we think is going to happen next and how everybody can plug into that, where they can fit in. So I hope that helps.
It does help because that's where you want to actually have that so that they take away that from this interview. We'll put what will work best in the description and the links for this interview. Olivia, thank you. I came away. I started in with just mad at appalling leadership, and then you gave me some real Nick Freitas oriented action that gets stuff done on this. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
This has been a lot of fun, buddy, and I can't wait to stay in touch with you. And I'm always available to you. I promise.
Thanks.